USF's Victor Rudd. You can score it and dish it quite like Pitt's Trey Woodall. It's the Bulls and Panthers from Peterson Event Center. Next. Welcome to Big East Basketball, presented by PNC Bank. Tonight, it's 10-16 South Florida versus 21-7 the University of Pitt Panthers. 2 games separate the top 6 teams in the Big East. 2 games separate the 7th place team from the 11th place team. Major jockeying for position from here on out. Hi everybody, Kevin Connors, Bob Wenzel, good to be with you. Another terrific atmosphere here inside the Pete. Another sellout tonight. Bob, they're here to see a Pitt team eyeing its 10th Big East Conference win, and a South Florida team hoping to avoid its 10th Big East defeat.
Pittsburgh is hitting on what they call all cylinders right now. Very, very tough defense, rebounding prowess, very good shot selection. South Florida struggling to find points.
Our one-on-one matchup tonight. Pitt's one of the most electrifying players in the conference against one of the most explosive.
Victor Rudd, 20 points and 18 points and 11 rebounds against St. John's. Trey Woodall, 25 against the Red Storm in New York.
For the Bulls to stand a chance, Bob, Rudd has to play big.
Well, there's no doubt about that. 6'9", 235 pounds. He does some electrifying things on the floor. They will try to lob to him. He will crash the offensive boards. But fundamentally, he's got to score big points for them to be in this game at all.
And Jamie Dixon relies heavily on Trey Woodall.
5th-year senior, leads the team in years, leads the team in scoring, leads the team in assists, also leads the team in steals. He is playing the best basketball of his career right now at the most opportune time.
The Panthers are looking to improve their seeding. The Bulls are looking for momentum with the Big East tournament less than 2 weeks away. When we come back, it's the opening tip on the Big East Network.
We recently hired a world-renowned
basketball game is brought to you by PNC Bank, for the achiever in you. Back here inside the Peterson Event Center, the Oakland Zoo ready for tip-off here between USF and the number 23 Pitt Panthers. Kevin Connors, Bob Wenzel with you. Bulls coming to this game led by Stan Heath in his 6th season already, the reigning Big East Coach of the Year. Took the Bulls to the 3rd round of the NCAA tournament last season. Once upon a time, took Kent State to the Elite 8. And Jamie Dixon, the head coach of the Pitt Panthers, in his 10th season, a winning percentage of .755. 2011 Sporting News Coach of the Year. He has the Pitt Panthers back playing good basketball. A look at tonight's starting lineups. 2 changes for South Florida. Martino Brock getting the start in place of Javonte Hawkins, and Jordan O'Magbane, the big fella, in place of Corey White. Anthony Collins is the man that makes the Bulls run offensively. As for the Pitt Panthers, we've touched on Trey Woodall. James Robinson, a member of the under-18 U.S. team that won gold last summer at the FIBA Americas Championships in Brazil. He's another touch matchup as a freshman guard. Our officials tonight, Joe Lindsay, Mike Eads, and Jeffrey Anderson. Pivotal game for Pitt in terms improving their standing in the Big East. South Florida just trying to find a win. They've lost 9 straight games in Big East play. In fact, their only Big East Conference win of the season came against the top team in the Big East right now, the Georgetown Hoyas.
The Peterson Event Center has been a fabulous place for Pittsburgh since its erection in 2002, but this year only 4-3 at home in this building.
Panthers go down low to Adams right away. Good defense that time by Omagbe. What does South Florida want to do offensively?
Well, they're going to hold the ball for as long as they can, use the shot clock as much as they can. That's typically what they do. Torlin Fitzpatrick, number 32, is a stretch 4-man. He likes the three-point shot, pick and pop kind of guy. Rudd will create on its own. Collins will have the ball in his hands at the end of the shot clock.
Rudd on the drive, good defense, and it's Woodall who comes down with it. Woodall finding Adams, left-handed jump hook, no, it's Zana the offensive rebound, he has it stripped away. They call the personal foul on Steven Adams, his first. This is the 11th meeting, Bob, in this series. And despite Pitt's dominance in the Big East in recent seasons, South Florida has won 2 straight games, including in this building last season.
Yeah, and how about that? That was when South Florida had its greatest season. 22 wins last year, NCAA tournament, won 2 games in the tournament. Let's keep an eye on Omagbe inside, number 35, 7'3", 334 pounds. I would say that he could take up some space, wouldn't you?
I would say so. He's in there for his size as Fitzpatrick gets South Florida on the board. All right, Bob, conversely, what does Pitt want to do offensively?
Well, Pitt is going to run their stuff and take the opportunity when it's there. They are a team that is very, very efficient in their possessions. Rarely turn the ball over. Robinson with the ball and Woodall now with the ball. Very, very good assist to turnover ratios.
In a very deep basketball team. Patterson's 3 is off the mark, and a slow start offensively for the Panthers.
Switching man-to-man on the part of Panthers here.
Here's Martino Brock, once upon a time the leading scorer for the University of South Alabama. South Florida off to a good start.
Well, he's getting the start today in place of Hawkins. Hawkins, a freshman. Martino Brock played well against St. John's and therefore getting the start tonight. Pittsburgh is not an explosive offensive team. They rely on smarts and quality of shots, not quantity of shots.
This is Woodall going right at Omagbe.
That was like you when you played at Ithaca College, man. Off the window.
Defensively swatted away by the big fella, Steven Adams.
From New Zealand, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And right here you can see length matters. The 7-footer getting his hand on that one. That's his 57th block on the season. Big hands right there, huh?
Not quite life size, although he is a big fella. Does fill out the Pitt uniform, 7 feet, 250-pound freshman. He takes a seat on the bench, has 1 personal foul in the early going here.
He's the preseason rookie of the year in the league. I thought that was hysterical. Nobody had ever seen him play other than Jerry Dixon. He came in with a big rep, and of course, it's been slow, but he's improving.
South Florida deliberate offensively. They will take it down under 10 on the shot clock, which is where it is now. Rudd off the dribble, tries a 3. And it's Zana who clears.
What's curious to me about this game so far is Collins has not touched the basketball. Number 11 in green typically is the guy who has the ball 90% of the time. So I don't know if he's shaking his head. His body language is not good. Look at his numbers last year against Pittsburgh. 33 points, 12 assists in the 2 wins that you mentioned.
He's 15th in Division I in assists, 6.1 per game. He called the foul on Martino Brock. And so it sends Dante Taylor to the free throw line. He's a player, Bob, that they've been really waiting to develop throughout his career here at Pitt.
Yeah, he's a senior now, and he's the third big guy, right? They play with two big guys at a time. Typically it's Zana and Adams, and he comes in and they rotate. If they can get production from him, that would be a big positive.
This is 132nd career game in a Pitt uniform, one of the most highly recruited players in the history of this program.
Now this is Collins, who's a magician with the basketball. Brother played at West Virginia on those great teams when John Beeline was there. He is fun to watch, but so far in this game, not involved at all. Rudd's doing all of the ball handling.
Here's Fitzpatrick. He can shoot it from deep. He'll pull the trigger and knocks it down.
Amen. Best three-point shooter on this team by far. You mentioned Dante Taylor. Well, Fitzpatrick has played more games than anybody in a South Florida uniform ever.
Local product out of Tampa, King High School. Open look for Robinson for three is short. Zana, the offensive rebound, forces it up, and he draws the foul. He's been active, Bob. And Talib Zana will head to the free throw line when we come back. South Florida off to a hot start here, 4 minutes into this game. Let's take a look at our Big East leaders, brought to you by PNC Bank. For the achiever in you, we've got some outstanding guard play, Bob, in this game tonight.
Assist to turnover ratio is a statistic that proves one's mental prowess and skillful passing. The skillful passing is the assist part. The lack of turnovers is the mental part. And you can see Woodall, Collins, and James Robinson all in this game. Eric Atkins, of course, of Notre Dame, very, very good at that. Zana's a guy who scored 4 points in each of his last 3 games. He's 6'9", runs like the wind. They need more from him. And I think Pittsburgh is a team that has traditionally been very, very tough in the paint. And he is a developing player as well. You can see his numbers pretty good, especially the middle one. Shoots 51% from the field, mostly on interior shots.
As we see J.J. Moore check into the game for Zana.
Well, you mentioned before, Kevin, that Jamie Dixon likes to use 10 players in a game. That has some manifestations. Number one, it hurts your offense a little bit because people get out of rhythm. Number two, it helps your defense and intensity level because guys are fresh, especially in the second half.
And Jamie told us that that's been a factor with this basketball team, keeping the team fresh. And he also pointed out that the guys like one another, Bob.
Yes, indeed. Nice chemistry with the group.
They force it down low to Zach Leday in the game for the first time, and he turns it over. Leday, one of those freshmen that Stan Heath is developing. Leday, along with Javante Hawkins, two players he is very excited about. This is something of a transition year for South Florida.
Two guys graduated last year, Ron Anderson Jr. and Augustus Gilchrist, which gave them interior play offensively and defensively. They are sorely lacking it this year.
This is Moore on the dribble, fouled on his way to the rim, and he'll head to the line for a pair.
Fake shot, drive to the basket when you're athletic, draw the foul. J.J. Moore shoots 82% from the free throw line. So when he takes it to the basket and gets fouled, Jamie Dixon likes that.
And that is the second personal on Torlin Fitzpatrick. Stan Heath cannot afford to lose.
Well, that's a problem because he's got 5 of their 7 points already in the game. And Stan is going to have to sit him for a long time now. Although when you are 1-13 in the league, you might want to take risks in a situation like this, right?
You can afford to do that,
exactly.
Yeah. We see Corey White checking into the game along with Jawanza Poland. Poland, a player that can heat up in a hurry.
One of those 6th men in the league, like Javon Pinkston at Villanova, Sutherland at Syracuse. He fills that role for this group. Solid D. Stay between your man and the basket. Switch all screens.
Under 10 on the shot clock. Rudd with an acrobatic shot. How about the hang time, Tom?
I like that. I told you he does something spectacular in every single game. I've had them about 5 or 6 times this year, and he always does something. I think it's partly the shoes, don't you?
I think so, yes. It's nice neon shoes, and you will see them high in the air. He is a thrilling dunker. Had a tremendous follow-up dunk in a game at Villanova. Caught an alley-oop over by Musakita and Syracuse earlier this season, as they call it kickball against South Florida.
Well, he's a transfer from Arizona State University. Leads the team in scoring and rebounding. His field goal percentage is low because he takes a lot of shots when they're losing in end game situations. That affects one's stats a bit with a team like this.
Here's Woodall, and I'm going to say almost got away with a step too many, and the officials caught it. Traveling violation on Pitt.
Well, with Jamie Dixon's system and the 10-player rotation you talked about earlier, Kevin, nobody has great stats. You have to do stats by position. Those guys have been in the game already. They're on the bench already, those 3. So you go by position and say, okay, what are the 4 and 5 men doing? What are the 2 guards doing? And what are the small forwards doing? And you add those all up. Because individually, statistically, no one guy does big things for this team.
As they call a ticky-tack foul on Woodall, that is his first. And to follow up on your point, Pitt is the only team in America where 10 players average at least 4.1 points per game and 10 minutes per game. What's it like as a coach balancing that?
I'll tell you what, you have to have a calculator, and make sure. Jamie told us before the game that guys want more minutes, and that's a good thing. They should want more minutes. When I was a player, I didn't like that. I wanted to play the whole time. And I don't know about you when you were a player. I know you played. And, getting in and out kind of threw me off, I thought.
My problem was my coach didn't want me playing all the time. As Rudd knocks down another 3, a hot shooting start for Victor Rudd. He's got 5. All things considered, it's got to be a start that Stan Heath is happy to see, Bob.
No doubt about that. But, he knows, and they've been in games, and you mentioned they beat Georgetown, teams that's the best team in the league right now. They play everybody tough. So it's not the beginning and the middle of games. It's, from 30 minutes to the last 10 minutes of the game, which is giving them trouble. Hawkins is in now, number 23 in green. He's typically the starter, athletic guy.
Oh, what an alley-oop! Caught by Poland. Collins threw it up, and the Bulls are off to a red-hot start.
Anthony Collins typically throws that one to Rudd. Poland getting in on the action in this one. One of the best passers and visual guys in the league delivers on this one. Let's take a look at Anthony Collins. He directs, he passes, and Poland makes it exciting.
One of the things that Brandon Knight was cautioning this Pitt team about at the shoot-around this morning was those backdoor cuts, and Poland taking advantage that time. And Anthony Collins will find you if you're open.
No doubt about that. Collins is a guy who, I mean, if he was on a team that was winning a lot of games, you know, like last year, you know, he had a lot of assists. This year, a lot of assists too. But if, I mean, they were winning more, he'd be leading the league in assists. I mean, he's got such great vision.
Bulls in the midst of a 7-0 run over the last minute and 45 seconds. And I guess Jamie Dixon's got to be thinking to himself, yep, it's Big East Conference play as Taylor rattles one in on the low post move. Run open again. Too strong that time, and Pitt looks to go the other way.
5 guys back in green shirts take away the fast break. Nobody went to the offensive glass, but usually you don't give up easy shots when that happens.
Second effort by Taylor. He's been active. Has it knocked out of his hands, and it will stay Pitt basketball.
Jawanza Poland, right rocketing to the hoop.
Nice shot of downtown Pittsburgh here in late February. The Pitt Panthers off to a slow start here, 14-8 USF on top. Let's take a look at the principal group edge to the game. Bob, what do you have?
Well, Rudd must score big. So far he's got 5 and looking very, very good. And they've got to create at the end of the shot clock. Martino Brock has done that, so has Collins. Pittsburgh maintained defensive intensity. That is not here. So far, South Florida is shooting 60% from the field. Balance is the key word for Pittsburgh, both inside and out. Haven't seen any of that so far in the game. They are pounding it inside, very little outside looks for them.
Well, here is the big fella back in the game, Steven Adams, going up against the even bigger fella, Jordan Omagbane, and he's called for the personal, his first. What do they say? You can't teach size. And boy, if Stan Heath can ever get him to get it together what an advantage that would be down there in South Florida.
The other thing about size, you can't teach it. Also, at the end of games, guys don't get shorter. They get tired, but they don't get shorter. Like it. Like it. They need the balance. The outside shot, finally.
First field goal of the game for J.J. Moore, and the Oakland Zoo trying to get into this one. Hawkins gives to Rudd. Again, South Florida content to take time off the clock.
End of shot clock. Collins should go.
Here is Collins working on Robinson, down to 5 on the shot clock. They feed it down low. Mogbane forces it up, and look at Adams gobble it up. Moore will try again. Adams the second effort, and he'll head to the line.
Little international flavor on the glass right here. New Zealand and Nigeria after one another.
That's the second foul on Mogbane, so 2 on Mogbane, 2 on Torlin Fitzpatrick. And it sends Steven Adams to the free throw line, where he has struggled at times this season.
At times, every time, he's shooting 41. Here it is at the other end. Nice aggressiveness by both big guys in this one. Mogbane, of course, not a lot of people knew about him, and I think you're right in your attitude about him. He could get good, you know, and they can work with him. This guy, Big East preseason rookie of the year. He's doing it on the boards and scoring lately, but he's an adventure at the free throw line.
And he has a nice stroke, and I think in speaking with some of the folks here in Pittsburgh, they feel that maybe, listen, he's a guy that's from New Zealand, hasn't played in front of big crowds before. Maybe that's something that's mental that gets into him in these games, because he does have a nice shot.
Let's watch his form the next time he goes, and let's analyze it.
Corey White a bit too strong, and one thing he can do is gobble up those rebounds.
Boy, it's good in this game, hasn't it?
Deron Johnson in the game for Pitt, along with Cameron Wright, who draws the foul on Javante Hawkins.
Well, the 2 freshmen for Pittsburgh, one on the outside, one on the inside. Robinson, very, very good with the ball. Great ratio on his assist to turnovers. And Adams, of course, 7 points a game, 6.3 rebounds. And the middle number I like, don't you? 58% from the field. That's good.
How about James Robinson? Graduated from DeMatha High School, one of the great high school basketball programs in America, as the all-time winningest player. Is that saying something?
That's saying a lot. You're right.
Collins tries the bounce pass. It's a kick ball. It'll stay South Florida ball. And Robinson with some international experience as well.
Yeah. And, you know, he's one of those guys who got a lot of publicity in high school, gets to play on the USA national teams, younger guys. He fits perfectly into this team, Kevin, because he doesn't try to do too much. You know, as a freshman, he handles, he plays defense, shoots it when it's available.
Here's Corey White with Adams flying out at him. Robinson pushing. Pitt is 3 of 12 from the field here to start the game. As Wright puts it on the floor, gives it up. Adams, and a little jump hook.
Nice hands on that one. That could have easily been a turnover. When you're 7'1", you're close to the basket, but you've got to have quick hands and strong hands. That was a very good catch by Adams right there. Easily could have been a turnover. The big guy handled it well. Close in pass in traffic. Nicely done.
What's the one aspect of his game, Bob, that you think needs the most development at this point in where he is as a freshman?
I think he just needs to get a little bit more confident with his offense. You know, I think you mentioned his rebounding is very, very good. When he's close to the basket, he goes, he tries to make plays. He's athletic, he's a quick guy, but he's unsure of himself right now. I mean, when he catches the ball 15 feet away, Jamie's saying, put the ball on the floor and go, and he doesn't have that reaction yet. And I think the reason for that, we were talking to him before the game, right? And he mentioned to you that it's the level of play is so much higher than what he's used to right now.
And Jamie Dixon says he's really gets after it in the weight room. He says he's never seen a meal that he did not like, which has been said about maybe the one or two of us before. Well, they are very excited about what he is and what he can be here, not just at Pitt, but beyond as well. Pitt defense forcing a turnover.
Well, Stan is worried because Fitzpatrick has 2 fouls and is out. Since that time, they were 6 for 9 to start. Now they're 0 for 5 since then. Part of that is the defense of Pitt has been better, but part of it is that Fitzpatrick's out of the game right now.
They work it down low to Adams. Working on Fitzpatrick. It's short, and Poland is there for the rebound.
Stan Heat taking a chance with Torlin in the game.
Has the 2 fouls. Nice looking move on Adams, and Adams is there to get a piece of it, but he got a piece of Fitzpatrick as well. Good looking head fake by the 6'8", 245-pound Fitzpatrick.
And you know why? The scouting report says he's a great three-point shooter. And there's his career, a synopsis. Better and better and better each year at everything. Watch this pump fake. Got him off his feet because he's a good three-point shooter. You want to challenge that shot? Tough assignment for Adams to guard him so far away from the basket.
Well, Fitzpatrick has 2 fouls. Adams now has 2 fouls. Dante Taylor in the game for him. And Fitzpatrick knocks down a pair.
It'll be interesting to see how long Stan Heath keeps Fitzpatrick in the game with 2 fouls. If he's going good offensively, he'll probably just leave him in and take his chances.
As they get the foul on Anthony Collins. 7th team foul, and so it will send Trey Woodall to the free throw line. Been a quiet game for Woodall thus far. As Bob mentioned, coming off one of the best games of his career at Pitt, 25-point performance, including 4 3-pointers and several big shots down the stretch in the win over St. John's.
Did the same thing in the second half against Cincinnati when they won at Fifth Third Arena. When I think of Pittsburgh guards, of course, Trey Woodall is one of them, but you think of Ashton Gibbs and Brandon Knight, Levance Fields, Carl Krauser, all these guys, the Knight brothers. And there's Brandon, now an assistant coach here at the University of Pittsburgh, his alma mater. And he's sort of like them all, I mean, I don't know if he's better or worse or somewhere in between, but, New York type guy, scores, composed, assists. He's had some physical issues during his career, which has held him back some.
How about the coaches he's had in his career? Bob Hurley Sr. on the high school level, and now Jamie Dixon in Pitt.
Yeah, that's a lot of knowledge.
Fitzpatrick a 3. South Florida has gone cold. No field goals now in 5+ minutes. Right to Taylor down low. Batted away. Nice defensive play by Martino Brock. Third tie of the game. USF and Pitt knotted up at 16. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Big East tournament bracket as it stands right now. Kevin Connors, Bob Wenzel back with you. South Florida got off to the good start. The Pitt Panthers have come back to tie it up, third tie of the game at 16-16. Well, if the Big East tournament began today, this is what it would look like. And Bob, if this is in fact the last Big East championship as we know it, and it will be, well, those are some enticing matchups right there.
Well, I know this is a busy looking screen, but look on your right. Those four teams would get a double bye. On the right is Thursday. All the way on the left is Tuesday. The bottom four teams play then. And then the other teams play in the second round on Wednesday. So pick your team. See if you can find it on here. We're searching for Waldo here. Interestingly enough, Villanova as a 7 seed in front of Cincinnati, a 10 seed.
Patterson is short on the 3, and it's Collins, the smallest player on the floor, who comes down with it. Here's Brock in transition, bodied up by Woodall, and Martino Brock will head to the line.
Kevin, so far in this game, there have only been 5 turnovers, 3 by Pitt, 2 by South Florida. Right here, push it, try to get it up court before you have to play against the 5-on-5 D. That's a wise thing to do.
Second foul on Trey Woodall, so now some foul concerns for Jamie Dixon's team. Trey Woodall has a pair, and Steven Adams has a pair as Brock goes 1 for 2. He's actually started 14 of the last 19 games. Stan Heath as he continues to try to find consistency in a starting lineup. Where does Pitt find offense here, Bob?
Well, you know, they are a team that is a little challenged offensively. I think their nature is to pound it inside.
Down to 10 on the shot clock. Active defense by the Bulls. Shot is short, second effort by Patterson. Not enough, and Taylor is there. Dante Taylor is serving himself.
6 points for Dante. When in doubt, throw it up on the glass. If you can't score, attack the glass with 4 guys.
Tough-looking fall-away shot by Victor Rudd.
7 for him, 7 for Fitzpatrick. They carry this group. You're right, though. Stan Heath understands your question. He is clogging the middle. Not trying to challenge outside shots much. Get 5 guys in the paint when the shot goes up.
Robinson working on Collins, has it stripped. 10 on the shot clock.
Hesitant.
5 on the shot clock. Robinson pulls the trigger, and it's 1 and done again for Pitt. Here's Collins on Taylor. That's a mismatch. Rudd is open for a 3. Zana comes down hard. It will stay South Florida basketball.
The 3 usually misses on the weak side. Zana in the right place. Just comes down with his feet close together.
And Zana is holding that right hip, something that we'll keep an eye on here. Adams out with 2 personal fouls.
Well, Dante Taylor can play the other position, and of course, in the pinch, J.J. Moore can play in the post.
Here's Collins, tries the jumper. He's improved that jump shot. Good defense by Robinson. Trey Ziegler driving, right-handed runner. First 2 points of the game for Trey Ziegler, and it's given Pitt the lead. 12 points off the bench for Jamie Dixon's team. Here's Rudd working on Johnson, falling away, and that was not a good shot. Last touch by Ziegler. As we see Javante Hawkins check back into the game, along with Jawanza Poland. Patrick and Brock will check out. And Jamie Dixon fired up with the defense his team has been playing. In fact, Pitt defensively allowing the lowest number of points that they have ever allowed in program history. Collins splits the double team. Here's Rudd, has it stripped. Keeps it alive, Poland.
Poland wise to motion Collins to get the ball, settle them down. Great defense last 3 possessions by Pittsburgh. Nothing there.
Good looking feed, and Corey White missed a good one down low.
Yikes.
We expected a gritty, tough, lower scoring game, and it's what we're getting here. Strong defense by both teams.
Man-to-man variety by both. Clogging the middle, not extending.
Zana down low, too strong over Corey White.
Well, Corey White didn't even get his hands up right there. The transfer from Florida Atlantic, 2 mistakes in a row. One end misses an easy layup, and then the other end doesn't even put his hands up on his man inside. And hence, Omagbane is getting ready to check in.
Free throw line jumper by Poland, no, and now South Florida going cold, just 7 of 21 from the floor. Robinson on Collins. And that will be the second foul called on Anthony Collins. When we come back, we'll take a look at the improved post play of the Pitt Panthers. Coming up. Pitt Panthers out rebounding USF 19-11. They're also outscoring them 22-19. Kevin Connors, Bob Wenzel of Pitt's post play is much improved.
Well, Steven Adams is 7'1". Where does that matter? Close to the basket in rebounding. Done a good job here. Quick hands. That's his only basket of the first half. And Talib Zana, 6'9", 225. He can run and he hustles. He gets after it. He's an excellent rebounder. And when he scores inside, that's a big, big bonus. Take a look at the numbers on these 2 players. Nearly 10, so they average nearly 17 points a game between them. And of course, that's the big deal. They average nearly 12 rebounds between them. So you have to look at them as a one position, really. And Dante Taylor is the third guy who helps them out.
As Robinson knocks down the first.
One in foul trouble on the right, one in the game on the left.
Got a kick out of Jamie Dixon telling us he'd like to see more production out of his post play. And then he said, but then again, that's a problem in college basketball. There's not enough scoring down to the post among big fellas. Pitt in the midst of a 6-0 run as Mike McCloskey in the game, number 10 for South Florida. Neat story, former walk-on, earned a scholarship here for the spring of 2013. Actually played a career-high 12 minutes against St. John's 2 games back. Here's Rudd, tough shot, and it ends a 6-0 Pitt run. Nine points for Victor Rudd, leading the way for South Florida. And despite the Panthers going cold, they are hanging around in this game as we see South Florida go to the 2-3 zone defense, Bob.
Not often do they run this, but I think the problem is they want to show a little bit of a different look.
Robinson with a lot of contact on his way to the basket. And it's on Omagbane, and that is number 3 on Omagbane.
I'm going to take you inside the play here, Mr. Connors. Right here, this is a dribble weave. You weave and hand off. This creates motion, keeps the big guys out of it, and then they get a nice little pull-up jump shot right here by Victor Rudd. They put that in this week. They had 7 days between their last game and this game. Stan Heath told us that he put the weave in, and it's one of my favorite plays. A lot of the teams in the Big Ten are running this right now, and it's sort of the anti-outside picking for people. You know, we have the stationary screen, and guys come to the ball. That brings 4 guys to one spot on the floor. I'm not in love with that anymore. I like this weave action. It's pretty cool stuff. If you've got 3 guys who can really handle, it could be very, very effective.
There's McCloskey open for the 3. Mike McCloskey knocks it down.
Back to man-to-man. Staple of Stan Heath.
Florida hanging around, down by just 2. McCloskey defending Robinson now. 7 on the shot clock. Here's Ziegler off the dribble, spinning move, good looking one, and he misses the short one. Victor Rudd, quick pull, and that was not the best shot South Florida could have taken.
You're kind. You're really kind. Both teams are playing solid man-to-man defense. Great hustle, nice position. Don't extend. When you extend, people can dribble by you. There's a lot of holes and seams.
Patterson on the drive. Zana the offensive rebound. Misses a close one.
5 green jerseys rebounding. That's exactly what Stan Heath wants.
Bob, all things considered, with foul trouble to Omagbane and Fitzpatrick, coming into a hostile environment here, a 9-game losing streak, Stan Heath has to be thrilled with the job his team has done.
Absolutely correct.
And Jamie Dixon jawing a bit too much. A technical foul called on the Pitt head coach.
Well, Jamie is right next to the official. And of course, he doesn't understand it.
I think what Jamie was saying was that South Florida had taken the full 10 seconds, maybe more than 10 seconds, to get the ball across half court. He wanted the officials to call it. They did not, and perhaps Jamie may have said something that we're not allowed to say here on television.
Well, last week, there was a technical foul in this building, and it was on Mike Bray. And at the time, his team was down 19-1. And after that, they came back and they beat Pittsburgh in this building after that technical foul. So sometimes technical fouls can inspire.
As Poland goes 1 for 2 at the free throw line. Coming up at the half, much more on a Villanova team that may or may not be on the bubble. Andy Katz will delve into that, plus the Big East Wire one of the under-the-radar teams, and your first half stats and analysis all coming up at the half. And in addition to the one made free throw, South Florida can now hold for the final shot of the first half.
And if they do, they will also have the ball to start the second half because the arrow is pointing in their direction.
Here's Brock, loses the handle, and will call a traveling violation on Martino Brock.
That's got to give a coach a headache right there. Where are you going, Martino? You drive into the lane, 5 guys right there. Ill-advised, to say the least.
And neither team has shot it particularly well here in the first half. Pitt at just 27%, South Florida 38%. But they have not turned it over much, just 3 turnovers apiece. And so now Pitt, we think, can hold for 1. Quiet first half for Trey Woodall. And a traveling violation called on Lamar Patterson. Now, this has not been textbook late half execution, Bob.
To say the least.
All right, so 3.2 seconds to go here. What do you draw on?
Well, you want Collins, or McCloskey, who's now the point guard. He swings around where it says Beak East and then runs up the floor. 3.2.
Rudd from half court. And Victor Rudd, front rim. Almost went down. Rudd leading the way with 9 points. The Pitt Panthers in a scrap. 26-25 as Jamie Dixon will have some talking to do to his team at the break. When we come back, it's the halftime report here on the Big East Network. South Florida hanging around with the number 23 team in America. 26-25. We're at the half.
Customer Aaron Swenson bought from us online today, so I'm happy.
Sales go up, I'm happy.
It went out today. I'm happy.
What if she's not at home?
She won't be happy.
Use UPS. She can get a text alert, reroute, even reschedule a package. It's UPS My Choice.
You happy?
I'm happy.
I'm happy.
I'm happy.
I'm happy.
I'm happy.
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 I love logistics.
This is the UPS Halftime Report.
Welcome into the UPS Halftime Report. I'm Kerry Chow. Coming up, we'll join the ESPN Buzzer Beater Network in progress to keep you up to date with all the action going on today. Buzzer Beater features live cut-ins, highlights, and analysis from the biggest matchups throughout the night. But first, we check in with the Spartans. Led by junior point guard Keith Appling and freshman Gary Harris, Michigan State's backcourt has driven its way to one of the best records in the tough Big Ten. Seth Greenberg shows us how these guys are getting it done in the logistics of the game delivered by UPS.
Keith Appling and Gary Harris form an elite backcourt for the Michigan State Spartans. Appling has developed into an elite lead guard. His ability to play off the high ball screen and make plays, whether to score or make plays for his teammates, has improved. Here, coming off the high ball screen, he does a nice job of hesitating and getting downhill. But he can also make plays for his teammate. Hard hedge, he splits the hedge, gets in the lane, draws an extra defender, Brandon Dawson. Nice cut behind the defense. I would call that a high percentage shot. Gary Harris at 6'4", does a nice job of curling off this downscreen. The defender trails. He curls into the lane at 6'4". He can get into the lane and finish through contact. If you're a two-guard, you've got to be able to play off the basketball. Harris does a good job of coming off the stagger, coming off the hand-up, hard rhythm dribble, and knocking down the three. Harris can play off the bounce. He can play off the catch. But most importantly, to advance in March, you need good guard play. And that's why the Spartans will be a tough out come the NCAA tournament.
Thanks, Coach. As promised, let's get you updated with everything that's happening tonight and join the Buzzer Beater Network in progress. A reminder that Buzzer Beater is available through participating TV providers, and you can watch it on your television or via WatchESPN.com and on the Watch ESPN app. Enjoy.
Sessions to try to take the lead, and they were unable to do it. And since then, it's been all Miami. Larkin trying to drive by Eric Green. 6 to shoot for the Canes. And Larkin will take a deep three and hit it. Oh, that's deadly.
Yeah, big-time player, Mike. 2 seconds on the shot clock. That zone had really played well. And he just breaks your heart with a terrific shot.
And the final minute of the first half, the lead's 18. Johnson blocks Green's shot. Ansby called with a foul. The first foul on Reggie Johnson. And Eric Green, very good free throw shooter, will go to the line.
Here's the play, and Larkin almost makes another play coming from behind. And then, yeah, you see, got him on the forearm that time. You just want to go up and challenge, and it's going to have to be a tough shot.
The nation's scoring leader misses the free throw. Just 5 points here in the first half. He averages over 25 a game.
Like he's only been under 20 twice the whole year. He's been incredibly consistent.
Makes 1 of 2 free throws.
He's going to have a monster second half.
About a second difference between the shot clock and the game clock. And Miami is going to hold for the final shot of the half. Up 17 now. 5 seconds. It's Kaji for 3. McKinney Jones, the follow, got the roll. Offensive rebound and put back by Trey McKinney-Jones. Shane Larkin leads the way.
And we are at the half. The Hurricanes end the half on a 17-3 run. They're in a battle for the #1 seed, and so is Indiana. But yesterday, for the 3rd time this season, when ranked #1, they fall. This time to an unranked Minnesota squad. Minnesota's won 4 games against #1 teams. They've all come at Williams Arena. We're going to talk a little bit about what the Hoosiers can do to get back on track. But for a Minnesota team that absolutely, positively kind of had to have this game after a great quick start out of the gate, they'd really struggled. Huge win for Tubby Smith's team last night.
Absolutely, and obviously the conference itself is a monster of a conference. They needed that win, and that's not a bad loss. Is your Indiana. You lose anytime in the Big Ten, with the exception probably of Penn State. I think you can live with that if you're the selection committee.
All right, so back to Indiana. They certainly still have a chance to garner a #1 seed. They still have a pretty difficult Big Ten slate to go, and then, of course, the conference tournament. They've been battle-tested. The bottom line for them is, though, so much attention on Cody Zeller, but you think perhaps the most versatile guy on the team is not the preseason player of the year, but somebody else.
I think he's the most important player on the Indiana squad.
This is Victor Oladipo.
Victor Oladipo. He leads the Big Ten in steals. He's always matched up against the other team's best player. He's second in scoring on that team. And I think he's the guy, when the shot clock's winding down, he's the guy that can break down the defense and come up with either a monster dunk or a step-back jumper. Victor Oladipo, I think, is the key guy for Indiana.
All right, so they will see where they can go. Oladipo, Zeller, Farrell, they've got loaded team. But they've run into 3 buzzsaws this season. That tends to happen when you're the #1 team in the country, and that target is always on your back. We've got projected #1 seeds to look at here, plus a couple of other teams that might be able to sneak their way into this discussion as we take a look at who might get those 4 coveted #1 seeds as Selection Sunday comes down to March 17th. As we take a look at those teams, do you kind of feel like having a #1 seed may not be the most important thing in the world, simply because at this point, what is being #1 really given you?
Well, when I played in 1994, we were 9 seed. We knock off #1 North Carolina. I don't think it has anything to do with the seed. I think it has to do with how you're playing and the balance you have. Teams that defend and have good backcourt play, I think those are the teams that have a chance to go deep into the tournament. So seeding, obviously, that's something that we talk about, but I think it's more about the mismatches that you create.
All right, so there you see ESPN bracketologist Joe Lunardi says right now these would be the 4 #1 seeds as we speak. Indiana, Duke, and Michigan have obviously been battle-tested. We kind of know that. But the outlier there is Gonzaga. They play in the West Coast Conference, not a particularly deep conference, but hey, if everybody keeps losing and they keep winning and they have a great body of work over the last few years, you can't discount them. The bottom line is They have not gone through the rigors the other teams had. How good is Gonzaga? Are they deserving?
Well, I think they are deserving, but I go back to the power conferences, and in particular the Big Ten, Indiana. Anytime you have to go on the road and play Michigan, Michigan State, and oh, by the way, you got some other good teams in that conference. But I don't want to take anything away from what Gonzaga has done. They are a balanced team, and I think they're another team that you obviously don't want to see if you're going into the NCAA tournament.
All right, so those are the 4 number ones as we speak. I think as we speak is the 3 most important words in this discussion because it tends to change nightly with all the upsets we've seen. Is there anybody not on that list of those top 4 you think could maybe crack into that top 4 and eventually get a number 1 seed?
Absolutely. Big game looming Saturday at Cameron Indoor. I think if Miami beats Duke on the road, I think they are going to be a number 1 seed. How can you not give them? Everybody has Duke locked in as a number 1 seed. If they go on the road and knock off Duke in Cameron, I think Miami gets a number 1 seed coming out of the ACC.
All right, so you think the Hurricanes could be there. Right now, according to bracketologist Joe Lunardi, who does these things from a hypothetical standpoint, it is once again right now for the Hurricanes on the outside looking in. Let's take a look at the formula, the mathematical permutations. There actually is a little bit of a science to this as we break down the field of 68. Question is for you, so many different factors can help you win in March. What to you is the most important component a team needs to make a deep run with a chance to cut down the nets?
Starts with backcourt play. You have to have a guy like Trey Burke. You've got to have a guy like Oladipo that when the shot clock is winding down, they can go make you a play, get a bucket, if you will. And then balance. I think you cannot rely on three-point shooting. You have to have some interior presence in the NCAA tournament when you're not shooting the ball well from the perimeter. Have somebody that can get some interior points in. And then the final piece, defend. You got to defend. If you can't get stops in critical times of the game, I think defense, and you can take any one of those 3 in any order, backcourt play, balance on the offensive end, defense. I think you need to have those 3 things to go deep into the tournament.
Obviously, the Miami Hurricanes, as you see on your screen, do have all 3 of those components. We'll see just how far they go. Right now, they continue to ascend highest rank in school history. Michigan and Penn State going at it. This was kind of a competitive game early on. You kind of said the Nittany Lions were able to hang in games. Let's tell you what's going on here in State College, Pennsylvania, between these two. Penn State looking for their first Big Ten win of the year. Nick Stauskas not about to let it happen. Puts Michigan up by 7. And then here comes Trey Burke. You've been keeping an eye on him all season, as of all college basketball fans.
Oh, he is such a tough matchup. You're not going to defend him one-on-one. You better run double teams at him, get the ball out of his hand. There is nobody in college basketball that's going to shut him down individually one-on-one matchups.
Tell you what, I don't know if Mitch Richmond or like Chris Mullen has any kids, but the Hardaway's kid, pretty good. He finds Jordan Morgan. It counts in the foul. Michigan is pulling away, as you would have expected. Second half underway from our 7 p.m. Eastern tips. Oklahoma State all over TCU. It's an 18-point lead for a team that right now, Joe Lunardi, has 4th in the field. What a great, great season it's been. That win at Kansas, I think, really made a lot of believers out of a lot of people.
Absolutely, and super freshman Marcus Smart has been phenomenal, having a great freshman campaign, can flat out score the ball, does not look like a true freshman at all. He's got good size, and obviously Travis Ford doing an unbelievable job with this Oklahoma State team.
We hope you enjoyed the fast action coverage from ESPN's Buzzer Beater Network. We'll continue this service Wednesday nights and all day Saturdays throughout the college basketball season. That's going to do it for the UPS Halftime Report. I'm Kerry Chow. Enjoy the second half.
You need a quarterback. You got Carson Palmer, at least for another year. Geno Smith can sit. You still got Terrell Pryor you're trying to develop. Would you draft Geno Smith with number 3 pick overall in the draft?
If I'm the Raiders,
yeah.
I mean, you got to look at it.
Okay.
You have to look at that because right now the Raiders are in a rebuilding mode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at this football team. Reggie McKenzie, I think, is going to do a fine job of giving time.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got to rebuild this team. And it starts, obviously, and not so much at the quarterback. We get that. But they don't need to start a rookie, but they can go get one.
Right.
And have a bridge for Carson Palmer, whether he wants to take a pay cut or not. And then from there, build around him. They need some offensive lineman help. They need some defensive lineman help. They've got to get a runner that can stay healthy. I love the runner, but he's always hurt.
Yeah,
that lies the problem. So,
all right, Darren McFadden.
That doesn't surprise me to entertain Geno Smith. I mean, he's got a lot of strengths too now. This is one thing about draft. One thing I learned about it, being involved in it for all these years. Mm-hmm. This is the time where you beat up the players. You look at all their, you look at all the spots. You kind of break them down. And when you come away from the combine, boy, all you hear is about what the guy can't do. I'm one of those guys that always coaching this way. I say, you know what? Tell me what he can do. Because it's my job to make sure he don't fail. Mm-hmm. If you tell me what he can do, we got to make sure when we get him here, that's what we ask the player to do. So eventually when all this negativity leaves and we say, hey, you know what? There's no quarterbacks. I'm going to tell you something. These quarterbacks are going to get drafted. Because if you need a quarterback, whether you like it or not, the only way you get one is you make a trade or you draft one.
Right.
So there's some quarterbacks here going to get drafted, and some of these players are going to be good quarterbacks. Now, when that happens, I don't know. But we can sit here. See, our problem is we look at the last year's class of quarterbacks. Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin, okay? We look at these guys. You look at Russell Wilson, all these guys that were very good last year. We had 4 or 5. We had, 4 or 5 young quarterbacks that did. Brandon Whedon, okay?
Ryan Tannehill.
Ryan Tannehill. We talk about all these young quarterbacks that had some success. Now, 3 of them took their teams to the playoffs.
Right.
You generally don't see that. So we're looking at those guys and say, there's nobody like that in this class. We don't know that yet.
Yeah. Well,
it's all speculation until he goes into a training camp and he actually puts the pads on and he goes through the process of learning the plays and going through training camp, and then the season starts, and then we can say when they start playing games, well, they're not like this class. Well, they might not be a bunch of these guys like this class, but I'm going to tell you something. There's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 of these young quarterbacks that get drafted. They're going to be starters.
Mike Hill-Hermel was in studio for Mark Schlereth tonight on Hill and Schlereth on ESPN Radio. We're brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Back in the day, Alex Smith had high expectations because he was the #1 overall pick in the draft. Took some time before he started to develop. Had a good season as Norv Turner was the offensive coordinator out in San Francisco, but he was considered a bust pretty much until the beginning of last season when Jim Harbaugh took over and he led his team to the NFC Championship. But now, after today, Alex Smith on March 12th will officially have a new home.
3rd down, Alex takes the snap. Alex look, he's got it. Post, and it's got it! Caught! Touchdown! Touchdown 49! Vernon Davis with the play of his life! Alex Smith with the play of his life! And the 49ers are 9 seconds away from playing for the NFC Championship.
That's KNBR with the call right there. Alex Smith is headed to Kansas City.
Kevin Connors, Bob Wenzel back with you inside the Peterson Event Center. And neither team shooting it particularly well, and you see the offensive rebounds. Bob Pitt with a decided advantage.
Yeah, and they've been good at the free throw line. 11 out of 14 for Pittsburgh and 4 out of 6 for South Florida. The shooting elsewhere has been abysmal, but from the free throw line, not bad. Big deal right here. Trey Woodall, 1 shot in the first half. He's their best player. He's their leading scorer. He is not involved, and that's why we have a team at the bottom of the standings, right in it with a team near the top.
Zach Leday starting the second half for South Florida in place of Jordan Omagbane, who has 3 fouls as Adams deflects one.
His 3rd block of the game.
Here's Patterson in transition. It rims out, but he was fouled on the way up.
Well, Leday gets right in the game and gets his shot blocked immediately.
As you see, South Florida 0-8 in its last 8 games against ranked opponents. They are 1-11 when trailing at the half. Pitt 16-3. But you get the feeling that there may be some anxious moments in this building for the home fans before it's all said and done.
When you're in the Big East, you play against a lot of ranked teams, okay? So you could play 8 ranked teams in a week or 2 weeks. Last year, South Florida had a very good record against ranked teams. And, of course, you mentioned before, 2-0 against Pittsburgh, although they weren't ranked last year. Much better year this year for the Panthers than last year when they were 16-15.
Bob, give us something to watch for from both of these teams here in the second half.
Well, Woodall has to get involved offensively or Pitt could lose this game.
Collins forced one up, kept alive by Fitzpatrick, and it's Zana who rips it down.
And the other thing that has to happen for both teams is guys have to make layups. There's one. We have seen a lot of missed shots close to the basket in this game. Some challenged. Those are understandable, but some not. Those are not understandable.
Lamar Patterson breaks the ice in the second half, and Pitt opens up a 3-point lead. Here's Rudd behind a screen. He's fouled on the way up.
Well, Rudd made a play like this in the first half and made the shot. This time he gets whacked on the arm. Now he's playing from outside in. He's a 6'9" player, off the dribble with his offhand, getting into the lane and getting to the free throw line. So we're seeing some good Victor Rudd in this game.
Foul on James Robinson, his first. Rudd, the redshirt junior. How does he project at the NBA level, Bob?
Well, I think, he toyed with going to the NBA last year, which was, silly. And he did decide to put on a lot of weight, and he has become a much better rebounder. So, physically, he looks like an NBA player. Skill-wise, we'll see, right? Possibility.
Tremendous athleticism, and to Bob's point, he's led South Florida in rebounding in each of the last 3 games. Here is Woodall. Very quiet first half. Zana forces it up. Adams loses it in South Florida. Comes away. They've been scrappy.
See, that should have been a shot. Collins penetrated in. Brock had a wide open 3. Gave it up. Now they struggle.
Rudd, the jump hook, no, and Adams clears with one hand. Just has not been a lot of rhythm offensively for either team.
Indeed.
As they try to establish Adams down low, and it'll be a push. And I believe it's on Leday. In fact, it is on Leday, and that's his second foul.
Big guys close to the basket. Gets tackled. This is not football. Sometimes people think it is in the Big East.
Although Pitt got the new ACC football schedule earlier this week. How about that opener?
Yeah, Florida State here, right?
Welcome to the ACC. Patterson lobs it up, sloppy pass, but Pitt will be bailed out here with another foul on Leday. That's number 2.
Well, Leday's problem right here is he's guarding a guy that's about 5 inches taller than him. Leday is a freshman from the Colony in Texas. He's a very aggressive player. Played very well against St. John's, very well against Marquette, but a size differential here is hurting him.
He held Jack Cooley to a season-low 6 points in the game against Notre Dame earlier this season.
Had 17 points himself in that game.
Here's Woodall working on Brock. Turns it over, and Rudd goes the other way. Collins thought about it, now finds Fitzpatrick down low, bounce pass. And Leday fouled on his way up.
You got to credit Collins with this play. He read this beautifully.
Frustrating night, Bob, for Trey Woodall.
Well, he's trying to create on his own right here, and he can do that, but he's in and amongst the trees right here. Zana did not cut when he was expecting him to. 1 shot so far in the game. He's made 2 points from the free throw line, way under normal Trey Woodall production.
Why is that the case?
I don't know. It's perplexing because in his last game he was on fire, 25 against St. John's, controlled the game, had the ball all the time. Now, he just doesn't look like he's very aggressive in this game at all. I don't think there's anything physically happening. I think the flow of the game is not to his liking right now. Robinson is playing the 1, so he's trying to play off as the 2 guard, come off screens. Needs to take it on his own a little bit, I think.
Zana's 15-footer is short, and Rudd the rebound again.
When you are 1-13 and you're playing on an away court and you're hanging tough all the way, your confidence grows as the game goes on.
Rudd driving, forces it up in the paint, and he gets the members roll.
He is active in this one, taking every opportunity, unlike Woodall, who is not taking any opportunities.
First field goal for South Florida in over 6 minutes, and an offensive foul has been called on Pitt on James Robinson. We'll take a timeout when we come back. We'll talk about potential Big East rookies of the year. South Florida on a 5-3 run to open the second half, and the Bulls lead the Pitt Panthers 30-28. Now we can speculate now with about 2 weeks left to go in the regular season. Bob, your Big East Rookie of the Year.
Well, Steven Adams and James Robinson in this game, although not performing very, very well. Opepka is a great shot blocker at St. John's. And Jeremy Grant, I think, is doing great, great things at Syracuse, especially when Sutherland was out. But the leading candidate is the guy on the right, Jakar Sampson. I think he will get it. He's the leading scorer among freshmen, and he is a very, very vital player for St. John's. I love the weave. Dribble handoff, and then see what develops.
Jay Williams told me he thought that St. John's is the most athletic team in the nation. Wow. Which is saying something.
I don't agree with that. Jay knows what he's talking about. Were you doing the game when he was trying to build the opponent up a little bit?
Exactly, yes.
Ah, I see.
Trying to curry favor as Patterson knocks one down and ties it up.
It's about time, Lamar. Second leading scorer on the team, not involved. You know, see how aggressive Rudd is out here? Every possession, he's touching the ball, trying to make something happen. This little guy will make something happen, or try.
Here's Rudd off the dribble. Pitt gets a hand on it.
5 guys in the paint, that's why they got the hand on it, right?
Shot clock did not reset, it's down to 5. Rudd loses it. Robinson ahead to Zala, fouled by Fitzpatrick, and he has a chance for the three-point play.
Three-quarter court pass. Robinson's got his head up. They go 94 feet with 0 dribbles. Outlet pass, three-quarter court pass, dunk. That's beautiful basketball, and they need more of it.
Love to see when they reward the big guys getting out.
Well, Zana's best attribute is his ability to run from rim to rim. And they have not found him very much in this game, but That's one of the things that he does very, very well. He's got 7 boards in this game.
And short on the free throw. Foul the third on Torlin Fitzpatrick, who has been quiet offensively. 7 points for the Bulls.
He had 5 in the first couple of minutes of the game.
There is Fitzpatrick working on Adams. Gives it up, run, 14-footer is too strong. Woodall, a three-pointer from the top of the circle, and Trey Woodall knocks down his second field goal of the game.
Welcome to the game, Trey. Nice to have you back.
Panthers in the midst of a 7-0 run. Here's Collins working right on Woodall, and it'll be Trey called for the foul, his third.
Well, watch the follow-through by Trey Woodall on with this shot. Watch his right arm, how he keeps it up in the air. That is beautiful follow-through. Kisses the crowd. His feet are underneath him. Nice arc. That's what you want. Nothing but the bottom of the net. 3 fouls. That's a dilemma.
Woodall has 3. Fitzpatrick has 3 for South Florida.
Fortunate for Jamie Dixon, his team has a 5-point lead.
As Collins turns it over, and now Pitt looking to extend that 7-0 run. Robinson drives. Open 3 for Johnson.
The cream is starting to rise to the top. Johnson, the sub, comes in off the bench and gets involved.
The 9th different player to score for the Pitt Panthers, Bob.
Duran Johnson from the corner, the freshman, lighting it up.
Run. They've opened up their largest lead of the game. Bob, they're getting scoring from everybody.
Well, Johnson from the corner. His 19th 3 on the year. 34% from there. Watch the follow through. Wave goodbye to that ball, man. That's the way to do it.
9 of the 10 Pitt players have scored in this game, and when you consider they've got just 38 points, that is balanced scoring, and we know Jamie Dixon's team can do that.
Yeah, balance is the byword for Jamie Dixon in all of his years. In his 10th year here now at Pitt, that's always been the way they play.
Bob, how do the Bulls stem the tide here?
Well, Victor Rudd and, of course, Torlin Fitzpatrick, they are the core. Fitzpatrick is a great guy where he sets a screen and then pops. So in the weave, he's not much involved. Right here, this is his game, right here.
This is Collins behind the screen. Clever move, left hand. Not enough, and Taylor is there. Johnson, another three. Taylor, the offensive rebound. He has been very active in this game.
Pitt is playing better when they're playing faster. Push the ball up, shoot, and crash the boards. Much better strategy than the first half.
And an offensive foul called on Victor Rudd. Maybe a bit of frustration right there.
This is a discussion about whether this is a little bit more than just a foul. This is also negotiating on the part of Stan Heath. They teach that at the University of South Florida, negotiating 301
right?
to junior year class.
The professor is trying to plead his case to the officials. How about the second chance points? And how about Dante Taylor? 8 points, 8 rebounds in this game.
Yeah, he's been the best post guy in the game, right?
And they'll say that Johnson stepped on the out of bounds line just in front of Jamie Dixon.
Well, Dante Taylor is playing better than Steven Adams, and he's playing better than Talib Zana, which is nice to have a third post guy that can play better than your starters. The depth involved, very good. 8 points, 8 boards, as you mentioned, Kevin. Nice game by him.
USF has 1 field goal in the last 10 minutes. Poland forces it. The baskets were hard to come by before for the Bulls. They're getting even harder to come by.
Screws tightening on the part of the defense of the Panthers.
Ziegler puts it on the floor, and an offensive foul called on the Panthers. Foul on J.J. Moore, who's first. We'll take a timeout. Pitt by 10. Pitt Panthers 6 of 9 from the field here in the second half. South Florida's gone cold, just 1 of 10. And the number 23 team in America leads this game 40-30. Look at your headlines around the Big East Conference with the tournament less than 2 weeks away at Georgetown. Hard to handle. They've won 9 in a row. And how about Marquette at home this season, Bob?
Well, they've been great, and the 3 schools that have the largest attendance in the Big East are Syracuse, Louisville, and guess who? Marquette, for sure. Otto Porter's the player of the year in the conference. I've been trying to say that for 3 weeks. He teamed up Syracuse for 33 at the Dome. That was very, very impressive. And, of course, Villanova losing to Seton Hall at the buzzer the other day hurts them.
It's been a puzzling season for Jay Wright's team. They'll be here inside the Pitt on Sunday.
They've been the Jekyll and Hyde team in this league, no doubt.
Down to 3 on the shot clock. Magbane gets it out to Poland, but a shot clock violation, and the defense really picking up for the Panthers.
Well, the Hoyas are playing tonight, and they are ahead of Connecticut, as you can see in your screen, by 11. They are a terrific, you talk about a well-balanced team. Georgetown is it. Markel Starks, unbelievable. And Connecticut, of course, can't play in the NCAA tournament or the Big East championship. But they will play teams, and they may knock some teams out of the NCAA bid process.
Georgetown has never won at Gamble Pavilion as they get it down low, and Dante Taylor's up to 10 points. The lead is 12, largest of the game. Georgetown is in first place. Are they the best team in the conference?
Oh, yeah, they are, and they've proven it.
Collins drives. Basket will not count. Taylor was there, and a charge called on Anthony Collins.
You know, in the league, Kevin, this year, Louisville and Syracuse were supposed to be really good, and they are. But Georgetown wasn't, and they are, as Marquette. And you can see right here the step in. Definitive call by the guys in the striped shirts.
It's now 5 turnovers in the last 8 possessions for USF.
Big East Championship sold out, as usual, at Madison Square Garden. No public sale of tickets now. They go through the schools.
And I read today on Twitter a record number of credentials put in for what will likely be the last tournament as Taylor misfires. Second effort by Moore, and now Pitt really imposing its will on this game.
Well, the game was ugly early. Both teams battling defensively, but the depth of Jamie Dixon's team wearing South Florida out right now. Only 2 scorers in the game, really, Fitzpatrick and Rudd. They are getting after it on the offensive glass. Right here, a good example by J.J. Moore, getting it in there. He knows where the miss is going to come. He positions himself well. Right space, right time by J.J. Moore. They've also pushed the ball quickly in the second half and have gotten some fast break points.
How about this graphic right here? When you consider the rich history of Pitt basketball, this would be the best defensive team, Bob, statistically, that they've ever had.
Yeah, in terms of points allowed, right? So you're right. They've had some great defensive teams here. And, of course, in college basketball now, the scores are a lot lower also, universally across college basketball.
Why is that?
That's hard to tell. Some people think it's officiating, that, you know, the officials allow a lot more contact. Some people think that it's coaches playing more conservatively, going the half-court route instead of the fast break. Lots of different things play into it.
A whistle away from the basketball. Speaking of perhaps the first point that you were making right there about the officiating. Foul on J.J. Moore. USF has just 1 field goal in the last 13 minutes. It's the 7th team foul on Pitt, so it will send Zach Naday to the line. To finish up the point I was making about the Big East tournament, it will be the last Big East tournament featuring certainly Pitt and Syracuse, perhaps other programs, Rutgers as well. And what has, for my money, Bob, been the best conference postseason tournament in all of college basketball?
Well, I think a lot of people feel that way, and you know, there's championships all over the country, and you'd probably get an argument from the people in the ACC or the Big Ten, but living in your part of the world, I think everybody feels that way. The Big East Championship, 2 years ago, when the University of Connecticut won 5 games in 5 days and then went on to win the national championship, was one of the most remarkable things in the history of college basketball. Up until then, nobody had won that many games in that many days in the Big East tournament, even 4. So for them to do that and for Kemba Walker to do what he did, and then last year, they were 500 in the league. Last year, Louisville makes the Final Four. They were 10-8 in the conference. So that begs the question, is there anybody in the conference this year that is sort of like that can go on those kinds of runs? Now, Pittsburgh's not an explosive team, but they can tie you down. So they're a team that can win multiple games in the NCAA tournament. And, of course, Georgetown's not the middle of the pack. They're the top of the pack. They certainly are a team that can go to Atlanta.
Pitt of 0 for 5 from the free throw line in this second half. You saying that Pitt is a team that's good enough to win the Big East tournament?
Yeah, because of their style. It's always like that. They're not as talented as they've been, but they've won Big East tournaments with this style, as has Georgetown. And I think this style, where you slow it down a little bit more offensively, lends itself to tournament basketball.
Jump ball situation, and the possession arrow favors Pitt. Dante Taylor getting a nice round of applause here from the Peterson Event Center. 10 points, 8 rebounds in this game. He has been a force down low when Zana and Adams have not had their best game of the season. Taylor has contributed in a big way. Big reason why the Panthers lead this game by 13. And Bob, you talked about it at the start of the game. South Florida hanging around, but when it gets to this time, they've really had a hard time finishing games out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And they just get worn out.
Brock fouled on his way to the basket. Nice sportsmanship there by Cameron Wright to help him up.
Well, flip-flop for both of these teams in the sense of their seasons last season and this year. Last year, University of South Florida, they win 22 games. They go to the NCAA tournament. They beat Cal and they beat Temple. They were 12-6 in the Big East. Spectacular year for them. This year, not so much, right? 1-13 in the conference, 1-14 maybe after this game. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, had one of its worst seasons in some time, 16-15, way below their standards, and now they're back up in the 21-22 range. So Pitts, they both have flip-flopped their seasons from a year ago.
Well, South Florida down 12, trying to claw their way back into this one. This is Collins being watched by Wright. Alley-oop, and whoa! Victor Rudd flying in to finish it off. Electrifying finish from Victor Rudd in the second time this game. Anthony Collins has been on the same page with one of his teammates.
The spectacular is always available when Victor Rudd is in a game. He had 3 or 4 of these against Syracuse, and Collins has to be the trigger man. Nobody else is going to throw it that well, that long.
Well, our in the net play of the game brought to you by Bass Pro Shops. And right on cue, Victor Rudd hooking one, so to speak.
Well, he wasn't fishing there, right? I mean, he was
just sensational athleticism. And, you know, we were getting ready to delve into our B and C material, Bob Wenzel, and all of a sudden, South Florida's made this a 10-point game.
Well, every time I have done a South Florida game this year, that guy in your screen, Victor Rudd, has done something spectacular. either that kind of play or a rebound dunk come from nowhere. He's excited.
Adams down low. That one was too easy. Gorgeous feed that time by Woodall. Brock driving, out of control. Looked like Leday may have touched it last, but the officials say it was last touched by the Pitt Panthers. 4-point lead when we come back. We'll talk about Big East Coach of the Year. .34 lead on South Florida. Big reason why the 20-9 scoring advantage here in the second half. Kevin Connors, Bob Wenzel. As always, Bob, plenty of candidates for Big East Coach of the Year. Who do you like?
Well, the two on the left, I mean, Jim Boeheim on the left and Rick Pitino, their teams were supposed to be good, and they are good. The two on the right, their teams weren't supposed to be good, and they are very, very good. And the second guy on the left, Kevin Ollie, is taking over for Jim Calhoun, a Hall of Fame coach, can't go to the NCAA, can't go to the Big East, and he has won 19 games with that crew. And I'll tell you what, he's, if we were doing some kind of award for new guys, he would have to get it. But those are the five candidates in my mind, and how the season progresses down the end will decide who gets it.
Now you talk about Ollie as Fitzpatrick off the inbound steps on the out-of-bounds line, so a turnover again for South Florida. Ollie replacing the legend Jim Calhoun, Basketball Hall of Famer, three-time national championship coach. And you think about what it's like to try to keep recruits in a program when there's a turnover like that, and Ollie has done that, stabilized the program, 19 wins this season for UConn. 1-all, an open look at a three. Second effort by Adams, no. And last touched by Steven Adams. Bob, where does South Florida find scoring here?
Well, you know, I mean, Fitzpatrick's a pick and pop guy, but he's open right now. But Zana is pretty quick, so he recovers back to him. Martino Brock is a guy who can put the ball on the floor a little bit and be aggressive, although he got out of control on the last play. Tough personnel-wise here.
Here is Fitzpatrick, thought about it. Good feed down low to Brock, and we are back down to a 10-point game.
Well, plenty of time to go right now, and Pittsburgh can't fall asleep. We know that. And we know that Pittsburgh can stall out offensively. We've seen it in this game, and we've seen it during the course of the season.
Woodall drops it off to Zana, and he is fouled on the way to the basket.
The way that Pittsburgh got the big lead, Kevin, was two things. They pushed the ball down the floor and got fast break baskets and easy shots. They made a couple of threes during that time as well. The second thing they did was they attacked the glass with 4 guys on their misses. The last couple of possessions, they have not been doing either of those things, and that's why South Florida's clawing back into it a little bit. South Florida has been under 50 many times during the course of this season. They scored 38 against Louisville in a game this year. So offensively, they just don't have a lot of weapons.
Those are the first 2 makes from the free throw line in the second half for Pitt. They've been 0 for their previous 5 attempts. Collins heads to the free throw line. Well, we talked about the post players improving, and we've seen flashes from both in this game.
Yeah, but these 2 guys did not play as big a role as the other post player on this team. Dante Taylor played a more vital role. But going forward, those 2 players are going to be important in the rest of the games they play this year, and also in the Big East Championship. We were talking to Jamie Dixon before the game, and you were asking him about different things about Steven Adams being from New Zealand and all that. And he said, well, you know, some of the things that you think are the most elementary he doesn't get, like Madison Square Garden. What is that? He didn't really know what that was. And he plays a ukulele on the bus. You know, I mean, there's a little difference there, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Although a spice of flavor here and there, and again, he pointed out, we talked about it, Bob, this team really enjoys playing with one another, and I guess you'd have to with 10 different guys getting a lot of minutes.
Yeah. They're all dissatisfied in the number of minutes, but it's a unified dissatisfaction.
Collins' 2 free throws were his first points of the game last trip down the floor. Fitzpatrick has it stuffed up.
4th block by Adams.
Here's Cameron Wright driving, and he'll work his way back to the line. Well, using 10 players, this seems to be one of the things that's wearing South Florida out in this game. The Pitt just seems to have the fresher players at this point.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that in this game. Whether that holds true when you're playing, you know, usually you typically shorten your bench in conference tournament action and in the NCAA tournament. You know, a team like Pittsburgh, I think their strength is the 10 guys. So you're going to see periods where they don't score well. And it's a function of personnel, but it's also a function of style in the sense that it's hard to get rhythm when you're playing with different guys all the time, you know? And so I think that's partially something that they have to deal with going down the road here. We're told, incidentally, that Penn State beat Michigan. So the upsets continue.
I guess so. In a season chock full of upsets, they continue. That is an enormous win for the Nittany Lions. And I think you might say a bad loss for Michigan, too.
I guess.
All 10 Pitt players have scored. South Florida looking for offense. Fitzpatrick is short on a 3. They try to establish Taylor again down low. Nice feed to Johnson.
And selfishness there, huh? I thought Taylor could have gone up with the shot.
Instead, the clock favoring Pitt now. 10-point lead, 12-point lead. Just over 4 minutes to go. Wright gives it up. Moore will try a long 2. And now the Bulls have numbers. Here is Hawkins. Fouled on his way up, and he'll work his way to the line for a pair. When we come back, 3 minutes, 59 seconds to go. Jamie Dixon's team trying to hang on to a 12-point lead. Tonight's Big East basketball game is brought to you by PNC Bank, for the achiever in you, and by the Principal Financial Group. It's time to see your financial future. It's time to dream again with the Principal. It has not always been easy, but the Pitt Panthers are hanging on to a 12-point lead on USF. Time now to take a look at our Papa John's player of the game, and I think I know where you're going in this.
Dante Taylor has doubled his normal performance. He's got 10 points and 9 rebounds in this game on an assortment of stuff around the basket. A one-on-one move, a tip-in, screening his man with the lob pass. He's been very, very good indeed. So therefore, he is our player of the game. 10 points on 4 of 8, 9 rebounds. And of course, of those 9, 5 are offensive, which gives him 55 offensive rebounds on the year. And he will have Papa John's pizza delivered to the dorm tonight.
The guys in the truck, by the way, saying Papa John's would stop by there first. Taylor, a McDonald's All-American, 5th player in Pitt history, joined Charles Smith, Jerome Lane, Bobby Martin, and Brian Shorter.
Whew. Good company.
Indeed. A lot of contact, and it will be last touched by the Panthers. Taylor grabbed the rebound after a missed free throw on that last trip. He's got a double-double, his 3rd career double-double. Now, tonight's Big East game is being produced and distributed by ESPN Regional Television, Inc. Kevin Connors, Bob Wenzel, our Big East Network broadcast crew. They're locked into a good one. Anthony Collins driving, and it's back down to a 10-point lead, and now South Florida picking up with full court pressure.
Pittsburgh needs ball handling at this juncture. Hence, Robinson and Woodall should be handling the ball 90% of the time right now.
Do the Bulls have enough left in the tank? We're about to find out over the final 3 minutes and change.
Nice possession.
6 on the shot clock. Woodall using the window. He's in a quiet game, but that's a big one.
Perfect possession. Not only nice, perfect. Score with under 4 seconds on the shot clock.
He's got 9 points now. The lead is 12. Deep 3 by Rudd, and again, not a good possession for South Florida.
Yeah, fatigue makes cowards of us all, Lombardi said, and I think right now fatigue is really hurting the Bulls.
A lot of hands in the mix there on Trey Woodall. No call except for a timeout by Jamie Dixon. Well, we talked about Pitt at the start of the broadcast and what they have to do if they want to earn that double bye, Bob. And if they are able to hang on tonight, here's what they have left ahead of them. And your thoughts on the next 2 opponents?
Well, obviously DePaul is near the bottom of the league. Villanova, a tough opponent, depending on how they play that day. So if they go 10-6 here, they possibly go 12-6. Could get a double bye if they go 12-6, depending on how all of those things work out later.
And as we near the end of the regular season, we've been speculating on who might be the Big East Rookie of the Year and Coach of the Year. How about Player of the Year?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind who the Player of the Year is in the conference right now, and that's Otto Porter, the 4th guy on the right there. 33 at Syracuse. He's the most versatile player in the league. I think these are the top 5 guys by virtue of Bryce Cotton because he leads the conference in scoring. Russ Smith because he's the most ridiculous player in the league. We love his uniqueness. And, of course, Jack Cooley because he's got Notre Dame going well. And Michael Carter-Williams steals and assists, right?
That's right. 2nd in the nation in assists, Michael Carter-Williams. Syracuse in a bit of a funk right now. Woodall will try a 3, and that may be the one that puts this one away.
Earlier in the game, he doesn't even get to shoot that because South Florida has energy and they hedge that. Now they fall back on it because they don't have legs, and he gets a clean shot.
As Collins drills the 2.
Things are getting tight, huh?
2 minutes to go. In stores, Connecticut, UConn hanging around. DeAndre Daniels with 20 points for the Huskies, making that a game. And you know, Bob, we've talked about how this has not been one of Trey Woodall's best games, coming off what may have been his best game in his career against St. John's, and yet Woodall is now up to 12 points his season average.
Yeah. A couple of three-point shots get you there quickly. Big East Network schedule, Connecticut at Cincinnati. That's a big game. I will be there for that one. Connecticut has spoiled lots of people's things this year. Cincinnati struggling with offense. And, of course, St. John's and Providence. That's going to be a track meet. DePaul in South Florida. That's near the bottom of the league. Marquette, of course, very, very good, going to Rutgers. Eli Carter out for the rest of the year. Their leading scorer with a broken leg.
As Pitt breaks the press easily, and there is Dante Taylor with another hoop. Our Papa John's player of the game does it again for the Panthers. Rudd driving. Tough shot off the dribble for Victor Rudd, and South Florida will burn its last time out. So let me ask you this, Bob. Now, South Florida, a team that's lost 10 in a row. They've got one conference victory, but the beauty of postseason play is that you get a chance to hit the reset button. So how does Stan Heath approach the Big East tournament?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think he's got to hold on to his team, and so far he has. In the games I've seen them play, and I don't think there's ever been a lot of give up in them or anything like that. They're staying together. I think part of the reason they do that is he changes lineup, so there's always hope that a guy could start, and that's important for basketball players. They just don't have the... Last year they played this same style, Kevin, but they had two really big guys inside who could, in Augustus Gilchrist, score and defend, and in Ron Anderson, who was maybe one of the best defensive players in the league. They can't protect the rim. They don't have shot blocking. And then offensively, because of their style of play, you've got to have a guy at the end of the shot clock who can make a shot and make plays. And they just really don't have that. So it's been a struggle at both ends of the floor for them this year.
Help is on the way. Stan Heath has inked two members of the ESPN Top 100 class of 2013. And again, the Bulls coming off that terrific run in the NCAA tournament last season. They've played Pitt well at times, but the Panthers have worn USF out on the boards, and that's been a major advantage in this game. 39-25, the rebounding advantage for Pitt.
Well, let's talk about Pittsburgh for a minute. Pittsburgh traditionally has been a team that is very, very good. Of course, Jamie Dixon and Ben Howland before him, NCAA tournament every single year. Last year, a bit of an aberration for them, right? Only 16 wins. Well, they're definitely going to go to the NCAA tournament this year. With this game, they'll have 22 wins and only 7 losses on the year. This is some of what we're talking about, right? 316 wins, most in the Big East in that time frame. 10 NCAA tournaments at 11. So, but this team, I don't think is quite as good as some of those other tournaments. The knock on Pittsburgh when they had the super team was that they never made it to the Final Four. They got knocked down in close games by people. This year's team, it'll be interesting to see where they're going to be seated. Most projections have them, 6, 7, somewhere in there, 5 maybe. And it is not over yet. It depends on what happens during the last 2 games and the championship. But they are playing very, very good Pittsburgh basketball right now.
Now, you touched on it. I mean, the Villanova game here at home on Senior Day, a game that you would have to think that Pitt is the favored team in. They go to DePaul, one of the lesser teams in the league. They'd be creeping up the standings here, the number 23 team in the country right now. And, we've sung the accolades of this Pitt team. Jamie Dixon, a winning percentage of .755 since he's taken over. And, Bob, with the victory tonight, this will be their 11th 10-win Big East season in the last 12 years.
Impressive indeed. Extremely impressive. Consistency near the top of the league in this league is hard to come by. Of course, Jim Boeheim knows a lot about that, but Jimmy Dixon does too.
And then this graphic, which is off the charts. I mean, you're talking about Kansas, Duke, Memphis, and Gonzaga. And for Pitt to be included in that quintet rather, is saying something.
A grinded-out win for the Pittsburgh Panthers. At halftime, it was very, very close. Second half, they got it in gear a little bit. Their defensive screws tightened down, made it very, very difficult for South Florida to score. And they made some threes in the second half, like that one.
J.J. Moore knocks it down. The final score will not be indicative of what kind of a struggle this game was. 20-point advantage right now as Rudd is too strong. McDay fights for it, and Robinson comes away with it. South Florida with a game effort on the road. But the fans here inside the Pete recognizing a gritty victory by Jamie Dixon's team.
Pittsburgh basketball, how would you define it? Tough defense, stellar rebounding, and taking care of the basketball, not turning it over. They stall out at times, but their defense keeps them in every game. Therefore, they are 22-7.
10th Big East win of the season. Again, we mentioned it, the 11th time in the last 12 years the Panthers have won double-digit games in conference. They get a strong game from Dante Taylor, a double-double, his third of his career, and Pitt the 20-point victory over South Florida. So once again, our final score, Pittsburgh 64, South Florida 44. For Bob Wenzel and our entire Big East Network crew, I'm Kevin Connors. Tune in Saturday as UConn heads to Cincinnati for a 2 o'clock Eastern tip in what should be a very entertaining basketball game. The preceding has been an exclusive presentation of ESPN Regional Television, the worldwide leader in collegiate sports. Pitt, a 20-point victory at home. From the Pete, I'm Kevin Connors. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, nobody.